Hi everyone, this is Josh Kalscheur, Practice Director over our Advisory Services team here at Nordic. I'm here today with Sheri Long, one of our Advisory Services consultants, and wanted to spend a little time talking about some industry trends. Sheri, you work in clinical informatics, have been in the industry for decades, and have a ton of experience in both caring for patients as well as working in the IT space.
Yes.
And so would love to talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on in our industry right now, some of the big changes, and how we can imagine our world in this Epic space, and what are some of the things that we can be doing to prepare and certainly provide the most value in that space.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could give just a quick overview of kind of who you are and some of the work that you do.
Sure. So I'm a nurse. I'm Sheri Long. I'm a nurse. I've been in clinical informatics in association with nursing for just say over 20 years. I don't want to be specific.
Sounds good.
And I've seen a lot of the industry changes. I've seen a lot of patient care changes. I see a lot of reimbursement changes. And along those lines, what happens is, as we've watched value-based medicine kind of take the center stage, we don't think that that's going to change, but what is changing is how we accomplish the goals that value-based medicine, insists on us having. So, luckily, with Epic and Epic implementations, across many health systems, it's become much easier because of their awareness and the designs that the hospital uses, understanding their internal goals as well as the capability of Epic. They make it easier every single time to accomplish the things that we need to get top reimbursement in pretty tight times right now.
I think what's interesting and that I've noticed over time is that the software itself, though it certainly has plenty of room to grow, generally is either meeting or exceeding what some of the needs may be for some of those reimbursement changes. And the difference often tends to have a bit more to do with that organization and how far along that path they may be, or what their kind of larger vision is for where they may be going and what they may be doing. I'd be interested to know from your perspective and from what you see project by project, have you seen a difference in regards to how the software itself is installed or used by organizations in response to some of these regulatory changes and as we're moving more towards kind of that value-based care model? Yeah,
from my personal observations, what I've seen happening is a growth trend, both with operations, knowledge of what they need to do, and Epic as a leader in the industry, anticipating those needs and being proactive about developing ways to meet the needs. And so it's almost like every time we install or we go up with another version, what happens is those lessons learned are incorporated and then almost cross-trained to operations, while at the same time operations is informing their partners, their Epic partners, on what they need for the next steps. So it's almost like this great energy that kind of helps each other move forward along that path. And that seems to be the difference. That trusting relationship that happens, I think, is kind of a trend. And obviously, since more Epic installs are happening, there's more customers on Epic that realize that kind of companionship. So,
I'd be interested to know from the work that you're currently doing, so you're in the midst of an active implementation right now. And right now there's plenty of talk going on in regards to a shift away from the ACA model into what's currently dubbed the AHA model. And certainly plenty of swirl in the industry and politically about that. I do wonder if you're seeing any shifts on the ground, on site. Like is your client changing the way that they're implementing? Are things slowing down or speeding up? Or is there any of that that's actually affecting things that are kind of in progress right now?
The biggest thing that I see is how they accomplish it. When you have a product that is the best, you want it. Everybody wants to do the very best for patient care. We want to have the best electronic health record. We want to have the best patient experience for the whole health system, not just the hospital. So they don't want to compromise on the quality of anything. But they're beginning to get creative about how they want to implement it. So in the past, when they would want to just put everything up at once, now they're trying to be a little bit fiscally responsible and picking and choosing what components they think are best to implement and then later come back in. And it kind of has a dual opportunity. One, they can manage the debt that's associated with that type of quality implementation. They can also manage the changes that happen in order to react to what they implemented as well as prepare for what's coming next. And they're able to identify workflows that they can solve as they examine the pieces in order to do only parts. Because when you implement a piece, you have to be able to figure out what's going to happen with it when the others, So it kind of automatically causes a little bit of granular review of some stuff. So there's benefits to that, but they're able to manage the cost in a way that feels more responsible to their demographics. And I think that's really what I see changing the most is how they approach doing it. They don't want to not do it. They just want to do it wisely.
Yeah, I appreciate that for sure. And I think one area where I feel like we may be seeing that, and with your clinical background, I'd be interested if this matches what you see as well, where home health, I think, is an area that we continue to hear a lot about, and certainly continue to expect more and more from with the changes in demographics and baby boomers aging and whatnot. But I have not seen the number of implementations come through the door that I think I would expect to see, given
of the home
changes.
health module?
Yeah. And I'm wondering if that matches your experience as well. Do you see most organizations kind of holding off on home health and kind of putting it as like one of those things we'll do down the line? Or are organizations kind of figuring out in a different way? I mean, what has been what you've seen?
Well, I definitely have seen what you're seeing, but I think there's a reason for it. And every hospital has a forte. Every hospital has something that they do really well. If it's an area with population management and population health management, they're going to be very proactive about bringing on the home health module because they understand the impact that would have. Some of the other areas that are focused on surgery tend to let that lag behind for the moment. They always want to incorporate it, but it really depends on what the focus of the actual facility is, and that kind of dictates what they think is most important for their clients.
The last thing I'd like to chat a little bit about is a lot of the mergers and acquisitions and consolidation that we see in the marketplace right now. Certainly a very common thing that we see across a number of different markets and a lot of different organizations. And I think it's a trend that we certainly expect to continue to see. Continued consolidation and organizations continuing to kind of look to broaden their patient base in order to provide them with kind of the best fiscal model, certainly, but also the broadest reach as organizations are continuing to grow and kind of respond. Based on what you've seen and kind of what you're seeing in the industry, does that match your expectations as well? Do you think those things are going to, is that a path that you see continuing to happen even with some of these continued regulatory changes and whatnot?
It is, and I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, and that is it's another creative way for them to get the absolute best tools to deliver healthcare. And sometimes you partner up to reach a goal, and that's kind of what I see as just another facet of that same end result. And not only that, but I think that smaller hospitals look for the guidance from larger facilities that have more intense care, and it's kind of a benefit to both. The smaller place ends up getting really, really good tools, like we talked about a minute ago, and they also contribute to the population.
Sure.
And they're able to kind of work together to create a larger, broader reaching way to make sure that patients are taken care of. And so I think it's just another creative way that we're going to do that same thing. So.
Oh, I think that's fair. I appreciate that, and definitely appreciate your time to gain some of those perspectives. I think that's been really valuable.
Thank you.
So thank you, and I certainly hope that this has been an opportunity for you to get a little bit of an insider's perspective on certainly what's going on in healthcare IT and in the Epic space right now. So appreciate it.
Thanks. Glad to be here.